Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Can We Talk About It? I'm your host, Noella Kazadi. Today we're going to tackle another important topic. But before we get to our topic, I'm joined by some lovely guests and they're just going to introduce themselves so we get to know them and then we will get inside the topic. So please introduce yourselves.
Hi everyone, my name is Naomi Lolia and I am a mother and a student. I'm currently studying at Wolverhampton University and I study social work. And on top of that, I also serve within the church media team. And so yeah, that's me.
Hi, I'm Ferdinand Daniel. I am a father of 3, married to a very lovely wife. I also work with the youth ministry at my church. I'm an ordained deacon as well. My background is biomedical sciences. I have a degree in biomedical sciences, but I'm not doing that at the moment. I am self-employed doing quite a lot of stuff. But yeah, I love the church and I've been in the youth ministry for such a long time and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. You are all welcome.
Can we talk about it? We'll be too busy fighting over nothing. Can we?
Should I be able to play non-Christian music at my wedding?
As a Christian, can I sign a DNR?
Is it a man's duty to pay the bills?
Is it right for Christian artists to charge for performances?
Can men be gold diggers?
Can we please talk about it?
Can we talk? Can we discuss? Yeah. Can we?
The topic that I put out online today goes as follows. Why is it that families, church, society, etc., our environment, teach women how to be good wives, but we don't find enough teachings about men being good husbands?
I honestly don't know what you're talking about because
What?
I have been taught to be...
What? Like what? I didn't know What?
Okay.
I don't know why I said that is because I've been taught to be a good husband and I think to an extent I am a good husband. And I think I'm teaching my kids the same because I didn't ever see my dad wash the dishes or cook or do anything, but I do it in my marriage because I think it's the right thing to do. If you love your wife, then you help out.
Right.
So I think a lot of this comes from way back when women are told you have to learn to look after your kids, you have to learn to cook. And if you look at it to an extent, you're the one carrying the baby. Yeah?
Okay.
You're the one that gets more maternity leave. Okay? So you're the...
I don't know where this
I'm
is
just
going.
trying to see the end of it. Like, I'm really trying to see the end.
I'm trying to
No.
come for you, but I'll let you land first.
I'm trying to say the reason why there are a lot of emphasis on the woman is because of the children a lot of the time.
Right.
Not necessarily on how to look after your husband or your man. It is mainly because of raising the children. It was a norm that men go out to do the work and then women look after the kids at home and, raise the children. So your mom wants to teach you how to cook to feed your children. Even in the animal kingdom, it's, the women look after
That's not a good...
I'm trying to see where you're going with this. I'm trying to understand where you're going with this. But
So what I'm trying to say is, I understand what you mean, but a lot of men are not taught to do this and that. But I think a lot of it is because of that mother, which word should I use? Being a mother instinct, looking after your family, looking after your kids, looking after, making sure your kids are fed. It starts from breastfeeding.
Okay, before we get to the point of even talking about motherhood, because that's something else we'll touch on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's
So
just
I want to
about
understand
being
the question,
good
though.
husbands. Like, we get, with girls, they're taught from a young age, you need to be a good wife. To be a good wife, you need to do this. This is not being a good wife. This is being a good wife. But we don't get the same teachings for men. Like, for example, if you look at it in the church, the amount of women conferences that people have are many. But when do you ever hear of men's conferences? Naomi, I'm going to let you just have a take and give us...
Honestly, I think the issue here is the fact that society, families, churches put the burden of keeping the marriage together on the woman.
Yes.
I think that's what the problem is. They put that burden on the woman from a very young age. Like, we're talking under 10. You're already being taught like that attitude there's not gonna work for marriage. You speaking like that is the burden is already placed on the young kids to be good. To be good wives, preparing them to be good wives, but just not enough is being spoken on the men. And I think the problem is okay, we've raised such good wives. They are ready to be good wives, but what use is it if their helpmate is destroying the house that they're building?
That's true.
A lot of people talk about, okay, a wise woman builds a home, but what do the wise men do? Where's the wise men?
What do the
wise men do? I can't keep building homes that my helpmate that is supposed to help me to build it is coming to destroy it, but tomorrow again I build again. He comes to destroy it, I build
true.
again.
That's true.
I think that's the issue there.
Yeah.
To be honest, I agree with you to an extent, but personally, I don't like to say this is a man thing or a woman thing. Personally, because I think people are very individual. You might find a group of men who are a particular way, who believe that they should raise their kids and take responsibilities and everything. But I agree, I don't think a lot is being done. I never heard my dad tell me, this is how you should look after your wife and so on. It was all about, make sure you go to school, work, and look after your family. That was it. But not a lot said on how you should treat your wife, for example. So I totally agree with that. That comes natural, I would say, and it just comes with being a good person.
What comes natural? Being a good husband?
Being a good husband comes natural. I think it comes natural. You just have this instinct to want to protect.
Okay. I agree with the protection. And provision as well. Even men naturally, like you were saying about your dad, you saw your dad going to work. You never saw your dad doing the washing the plates and the stuff like that, but you saw him working and providing. So that's understandable that you will also want to provide. And I think that's the thing for a lot of men. From a young age, they want to show that they are providers and they are men. But I think for me, the way I've understood the question is not just, it's good to provide for your family. We're talking about husband and wife. Husband and wife is a separate relationship to father and kids.
That's what I wanted to separate it. Like, we can get into the element of children later, but just being a good husband. Like, how often do we hear that here's a men's conference on how to develop my skills as a husband, and how to, to be a good husband. We find a lot for women. This is what you need to do to be good wives. There's a conference about being a good wife. This is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. I personally don't see the same emphasis on men, and I feel sometimes that's why certain men feel like, okay, they can get away with certain things or have the excuse of saying nobody taught me, so I have to learn as I'm going along, which ends up creating friction within marriages at some point down the line.
I totally agree. But I think we're just talking about marriage earlier on, talking about there are no good men out there, vice versa, and stuff like
there
that.
There are some.
There are some. But the truth is, I think what a lot of the things the mothers do is they're kind of preparing their child, their daughter, to be a wife material, if you get what I mean. Because in our society today, it's not the woman who proposed to the man. It is the man who proposes to the woman. So the moms are trying to present a good wife or a good woman so that they can be chosen. Also, you also realize that a lot of parents don't even tell their male children about having kids. Say, until you're married, you can't do this or that. And do you know why that is? It's because if there was a result of having sex outside marriage, it's usually pregnancy, isn't it? And who carries that baby?
It's the woman.
It's the woman.
Yeah.
So that's why a lot of emphasis is on the woman to be a certain way, ready and prepared for the Mr. Right.
But then at the same time, right, I think that creates another problem. Because men are not taught that, for example, don't be also going to have sex outside of marriage. Why? Because then these women, they end up finding themselves where they're pregnant and men think, well, it's got nothing to do with me. I'm not ready. You understand? Because they're not being taught that the consequences of certain actions can lead to this as much as it is emphasized on women. So then some women end up finding themselves as single parent because the burden is just not the same on men. But to be able to build any strong relationships, I just feel like everybody has to be taught to be able to play their parts, but it's just not common, and it's a bit of an issue.
I agree with you that everyone needs to be taught, but like I gave an example, if you talk about the single parents you have out there, if you look at the ratio of single dads and single moms, you've got more single moms.
Yeah.
The moms tend to be the ones who carry the cross, who takes a lot of the responsibility. Because that child came out of you, okay? So it's a natural thing where you look after the child, you feed that child. I was talking to a girl yesterday who was having a problem with her son. A single, the man isn't bothered, but she has a responsibility, she has a responsibility to look after her son. So this is the reason why the parents, the mothers, when you become a mother, you said you're a mother, you have a need to want to tell your daughter, I don't want you to go through this. If you've been through it, you don't want them to go through that.
Right.
Because responsibilities always lies on the mother.
But my issue is that's not a good enough excuse to just say that's why we are building girls up to be better people, better women, to be better mothers. We have to teach the girls because they are more at risk of having that responsibility on them. It's not a good enough excuse. We need to start teaching the men also to be able to get their act right, to be able to be responsible, so that this issue in society at the moment can stop. Because you might not be in your child's life, but you can still teach your child how to be a man. As a man, if you are a true man yourself and you know what manhood is and you've been taught what manhood is, you can go, like, if you're not in, you and the mom are not together, but you can still be an active participant in your son's life. Sons need their dad. And the issue comes when the fathers think that I'm not ready, so I'm just gonna step back and I'm just gonna let the mom handle it. She can deal with it until I become ready. That's not.
No, but it's irresponsibility. And I would say there's responsibility. And the truth is, I think that's what the devil is trying to do, to destroy the home.
That's it.
The truth is that no matter how much that father is in the life of the child, it's never enough.
He needs to be in
Kids,
the home.
he needs to be in the home, because kids learn by observing.
True.
You can tell a child, you got to pray, you got to pray. If they never see you pray,
It's difficult.
it's different. They don't take it. It doesn't stick in, So I would say the men who do that are very irresponsible. They should be in the life of the child. But again, we keep passing these responsibilities to society. It starts from the home.
That's it.
Charity begins at home.
That's true.
This is why, whatever is built in the house then goes out. That's what you see now in the society, okay? So that's why the devil is attacking the homes, because it starts from there.
Yeah.
Okay, so as a dad, as a mom, myself and my wife, we talk about this a lot. The reason why I said from the start, I don't like talking about individuals, because a lot of the things people think women should do or think, my wife is totally different. She thinks like a man. I'm telling you. Sometimes you might be like, oh, she'll be more emotional. I'm more emotional than she is. So it's not always about a man or a woman thing. It depends on the individuals.
That's true.
And she grew up just with her mom as well, a single mom. So coming into a home where I grew up with a dad and a mom, thinking this is a dad's responsibility, I was welcomed to a very rude awakening. Because my wife would be like, nah, you have to do it as well. But I do it out of love. You understand what I mean? So I think a lot starts from the home. And I teach my daughter the same. I was just saying, if she wants to play football, she would play football. Yeah. Because she's a girl doesn't mean she's not gonna, she wants to. So I think mistakes have been made from the homes where the parents or the dads have not been good examples. And some who have learned, but there are two ways you could take it. I grew up seeing my dad not being the best example of someone who looks, say, after the house or cook and stuff. But he was a very good example for a provider.
Right.
But I decided to take that negative and turn it into positive. And I said to myself, in my own home, my boys will see me wash the dishes. They will see me cook. I learned how to cook and everything just to be different because I knew the effect it had on my mother.
Right.
So it depends on how
You look at
you
it.
know, you look at it, and if you decide you want to take it, you know, and take the negative and turn it into positive, you know, it could work. But yes, a lot still have to be done. But don't leave it on the society. It starts from the home.
Okay, yes. Touching on the home, what some people said is that the problem why there is a crisis is because there aren't enough good men to be able to pass it on to the younger generation. So it's like, even for the men that do want to learn, when they try to look around them, there's not enough role models or upstanding good husbands or men that they can be able to say, okay, let me look up to this person and learn from that person. So I don't know what you think about that.
I agree. The issue again is that the women, we have a lot of people to look up to. Because
True.
in the older generation, if we look at our parents, our aunties, the elders in the church, they come from a generation where it was put upon them, you need to be a good wife, you need to be a good wife.
Yeah.
Many of them, even if they're not married,
Yeah.
they know what to do. They know what to advise you. They know how to be able to train us young people in going up the right way.
Yeah.
But for some reason, it's like what you said, Noella, conferences, even church conferences, it's just on women. The emphasis is just on us women. Where are the good
Where are the
men?
men?
The good men that can say, okay, we're gonna change the narrative now. We are good men. We believe we're good men. We believe we're good husbands. So we're gonna teach these young people that they can also go up into the same way. Let's change the narrative.
Yeah.
There needs to be role models within the church, within the homes. Like Brother Ferdinand said, I liked what you said about wanting to change the negatives that you spotted in your dads and changing it for yourself. But not everybody thinks like that, unfortunately.
They don't.
That's the
Most
only issue.
people would say that nobody taught me. My dad used to
That's
do that.
it.
That's why I'm doing this. And then we get into a crisis of, okay, this is what used to happen. But I feel like, are men willing to be able to say, okay, this is wrong or this was wrong. Now I can learn a better way to do it.
Right.
Honestly, in this society, Brother Ferdinand, do you believe men think like that?
There are some, not a lot of men.
Yes.
Like
Not
what,
a lot of men.
5%,
Very few.
10%?
Not,
1 in 10, 1 in 15.
one in 100.
but you know, sometimes would you blame them really if they've been conditioned to be like that from a young age?
But it's a choice, isn't it? It's a choice to say, like you said,
Yeah.
I was conditioned like this. This is what I used to see, but it doesn't work for my home. So then I know there's certain things that I need to change. And I think your attitude towards the matter led to a change. But if you were on the other hand, like, this is the way I am, this is the way I was brought up, I'm not changing, we'll be talking of a different outcome. My question is, are men willing to say that, okay, this is what I knew or this is how I was brought up, but because of the sake of progression and because of the sake of my home, I can be able to learn certain things to do better.
Yeah.
I think, like I said in our earlier conversation, is about if you find a good man.
Where do they live?
You just have to be a good man to understand that I'm doing this thing because it is needful. And now we're in a society where even the women work. It's not like back in the day where the woman just stays at home and does, you know, look after the kids and that's a job, really. But now women, after a few months of having to go back to work,
Yeah.
you know, so you don't go out. I've had cases where a man goes out to work, the woman goes out to work, the man comes back first, sits at home,
Waiting for
waiting
his
for the
wife
wife
to
to come home, you know, to come
We
and
are
cook
tired.
and stuff,
We're
you know.
tired.
I would say it's not fair.
Yeah.
You understand?
Christ,
But it's all about mindset. It's all about being able to change the mindset, both for the man and for the woman.
True.
You understand?
True.
Because to be honest with you, if my wife wasn't the way she was, I probably would have taken advantage of it. But at the same time, the way she was would have probably also pushed me away if I wasn't sensible. You understand? So
hear you.
it is a difficult one because the women as well have been conditioned to be that way. So they raise their kids to also be that way.
That's true. Like, it brings in a question. Do we think like sometimes men get away with what they get away with? Because again, the way women are brought up to think, there's someone that said in the comments, they said, well, whenever something breaks down in a marriage, in certain communities, they will say, what have you done? Like the blame is always on
Always
the
on the
wife.
woman,
Like,
yeah.
what are you doing? Why is your husband left? Or like they
Yeah.
so now then women feel like it's almost their burden. Then men feel like they can take advantage of that because the woman wants to take the responsibility for the marriage to work. I don't know. I'm not married yet, so I don't know.
I think it depends on the perspective where you look at it from. Are you looking at it from the scriptures, or the scriptural point of view, where women be submissive to your wife and so on? At the end of the day, the husband is the head of the home.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which also brings, a lot of us are Christians, grew from Christian homes.
Yeah.
Which also brings the whole reason why girls' emphasis are laid on them. Because it looks like, you're the helpmate. You're here to help this man, so you have to be this way and be that way. So it depends on the area where you're actually looking.
So if we're looking at it from a biblical point of view, because we did have a whole section where we're talking about submission, right? There is still a certain role that a man is also required to play. But again, my issue is, as you said, it's about landing on a good man. So are you in agreement that there's not enough good men then? Honestly,
I think there are a lot of good men, but they are not. they are not where most of the women are searching.
Right. Okay. Tell us
where
what to
are
search.
where are they?
Please tell us what
They
to
are
search.
not where, and if you probably come across them on Instagram, you probably go past because they are not topless.
Okay.
You probably just go past because they don't look
a certain way.
And then you're missing out. So a lot of women are looking at the wrong places. You're not looking at a good man, a character. You're looking at most of the people you follow are those who have more likes, those who have more followers. But the good men may not even have
Instagram.
We don't see their character through their pictures.
No.
We won't see their character through their pictures.
A picture tells 1,000 words.
Pictures lie too,
They
especially
do.
nowadays.
There should
Yeah,
be
they
1,000
do.
words that are lies.
No, but then it's down to your revelation.
Okay.
It's down to your interpretation. I could see a picture and I could tell you a lot, my interpretation about that person.
Okay.
You understand?
Yeah.
So sometimes we're looking at what society presents as a good man, or what society is trying to tell us a good man should look like. But that is not what God is telling us that a good man should look like.
Right.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of good men out there. I believe I'm one of them. So
Yeah.
I think
Bigging himself up here.
just to play like slight devil's advocate, just slightly. We often speak about conditioning. That's one thing as well about us, that why are we finding it difficult to accept that some of these men just don't know what being a good man is, and that's the reason why they're not good men. Like, because we can accept that people, non-believers, don't know God. That's why they don't believe in God, because they just have never experienced it. They don't know. You can come and talk to them about God and they're looking at you like, are you crazy? Like, what is this? Maybe that's what is happening with men nowadays. There is just nothing for them to compare being good to. There is nothing. Because now, even if we look at... Okay. But no, like, for them, a few people is they need practical. Do you know what I mean? Like, men, it's good enough to be able to read the Bible and say, okay, these people were good men, they were good men, but how do I practically put it into practice now in this time that I am living in? And us women, we have that every day. They're quoting Proverbs 31 to us. They're telling us how to relate it to our lives. But there isn't that for the men. And I think we have to, as women, we need to be a little bit patient with them. Hold on. I think as women, we do need to be a little bit more patient with men.
I agree.
I say that we need to be more patient with their time of change.
To what extent?
But that men need to be ready to start working, because we can't just keep being patient, just waiting. I can be patient with a man that I see is making the effort to want to change, but then there's still those few things that he needs to tweak and change. I'll be patient. But when you're just there like, no, this is just me, that's not gonna work. Like, I think there's a role we both need to play on that.
If you see that somebody is not leading to anywhere, at some point you should just say, okay, this is the way he is and I should just move on. But as women, again, we have that urge, and I think it's just innate within us to be like, I can change him. I can mold him into what I need him to be. And then we end up spending years and years just wasting our time.
It's both ways.
Yeah.
Like I said, I always talk about my marriage because I've learned a lot in almost 10 years in my marriage. Because I'm married to someone who didn't really like the kitchen. She grew up with her mom, not like typical kind of home. that's one of her weakest points. And for me, I love my food. You
What a
understand?
contradiction.
So you
How
can,
do you
so
meet
you can,
halfway with that?
so you can imagine. It was really difficult, but what conquered it was love. Being able to appreciate that. Okay, this is her weakness. In the time I was married, fighting this situation, and in the time I haven't actually fought it and I've come to terms with it, I've had her even prepare the best dishes for me.
Wow.
In that time.
So it's approach as well.
It's how you approach
Because
it.
some men will be like, didn't your mother teach you? Blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah.
yeah,
And then they
yeah.
can mess up something
Yeah.
that's good. That's, oh, wow. Okay.
It's approach. And also for the woman, it's approach on how you tell the man. You can tell the man,
True.
why is that bean still outside? You don't do your own role. Go and take that bean out. And the man is watching Arsenal play Chelsea, for example. And he's like, okay, I'll take it out. It's not going to go out, But there is a way you would tell the man, baby, I've told you about this bean. Please, when you can, I love you. And you go away. He might turn around and do it for the sake of that.
Right.
His approach. Men, now, again, I don't speak for all men, but most men don't like to be given orders.
Okay.
Most men don't really like to be told, do this. They want to do it their own time.
Okay.
You understand? It is that superior thing. It's that thing of I'm a man. They don't want to be told.
So
it takes
being told,
someone
does it make them more stubborn if you're telling them to do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Most men, like I said, it's not every man. Most men, when you tell them, just the fact that you told them means they don't want to do it. It's just rebellion. It's not today. It's
Thank you.
So childish. If I'm telling you,
It's
know
in
what
there.
I'm telling you is right. Just do it. Just do
But
it.
that's true.
it's
It's
just
food for
because,
thought, I think, for us women
yeah,
as
yeah.
well. Like approach. And there's something that I hear a lot of men say is like just women are always nagging. So going back to that point, do we think that perhaps it's a problem of approach that women are nagging, as Brother Ferdinand said, and a lot of men do say that women are nagging, and maybe that's why they're not changing or why they're not listening. But having said that, again, that will be putting the responsibility
Back
on the
woman.
women for the men's actions. So, like, where does it stop?
I think it's just appreciating the fact that this is an inner thing for this man, or he's been conditioned to be like this. How can I help him? In the relationship phase. How can I help him? How can I help him change his mindset? If you love me, then treat me this way. Okay? That's the mindset. But now if you come, say you want to act like you must change this. This is something that the man has known all his life. He's not going to change it in one day.
Right.
It takes time.
Right.
Even the things that I do today, now in my relationship, wasn't what I did, 6-7 years ago when I first got married. I'm beginning to adjust. I'm beginning to have less expectations.
Right.
Okay? Because then you don't get disappointed a lot if you have less expectations.
Right.
You understand?
Even in a marriage?
Even in a marriage.
Okay.
Okay? So when it actually comes, yes, if you don't have so much expectation, if you feel like you need to be a whole person, the woman also has to be a whole person. And then you come together and complement each other.
Right.
You understand? If I wait for my wife, I need to be able to make myself happy without wanting my wife to make me happy before I can be happy. Then my happiness depends on her. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get it.
So to go back to what we're saying, it's basically how you tell the man, this is how I used to. Okay, I'll give you a typical example. I would usually come back home. I would have a shower in the morning. You have a shower in the morning, go to work, come back, maybe at nighttime, if you're very sweaty, you can have another shower or brush your teeth. But for my wife, you must have a shower at night. You can't even sit on the bed with your jeans that you don't wash very often. And that wasn't me. But I saw sense in what she was saying.
Right.
Because at night, you have a shower, clean body, go into your bed, into your kingdom. You go into your bed, clean. You're not fighting, except you do what married people do. You're not sweating that much and stuff, yeah? And then the next day, you can actually wake up, just wash your face and stuff and go out because you haven't actually gone to work or done anything. It took me a while to understand, but I saw her point. And it was because of the way she told me.
Right.
But if she had come in 3 years and said, no, you're dirty, how can you do this? I'm like, excuse me? You know, people get married sometimes as well. The woman says, no, you have to change this, change that, change that. You're like, you're coming to take my space. Come on, this is not what I was like. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's the approach. And then if the man loves you, he will do it out of love.
Okay.
And then gradually, you start changing that man, changing that person.
Okay, I'm gonna add to that. I'm gonna just to, okay, say for example, he's cheating, right? Say he's cheating. Do you also take it gradually, like, you know, cheat on me less,
slowly,
go out less and
reduce
slowly,
it.
or reduce it, and then you're like, oh yeah, at least you're not doing it as much as before? Or are there some things that are just like, no, I can't tolerate this? Because again, the burden, the burden is put again on women to be like, be patient, he'll change, you know,
Or they are
continue
like
to,
kids,
yeah,
you know, you
they're
just
kids,
have
they'll
a big
grow.
heart and
And then some women stay with that. They stay in that situation whereby, yeah, this is the way men are. It's wrong, but they accept it. Or are certain things just women should say, no, I can't tolerate this because it's not okay. You can't do this.
Okay, and what if you walk away? What if you walk away and run into maybe the next man?
Another cheater.
It's exactly the same or even worse. And
So what
you know,
do you suggest?
From a man's point of view, what do you advise women? How do you advise women to handle that correctly? I get what you said about knowing the approach.
Yeah.
I agree with you in regards to the approach. I think that's where a lot of us women fail.
Yeah.
But aside from that, because you can approach, you know, there are men, not every man is like you, Brother Ferdinand, that will see their wife being calm and talking to them nice, and then
And
they
see
see
sense.
sense in it. Some of them will be like, that's the time for me to take advantage because
Yeah.
look at how she is. Do you know what I mean? So how do you advise women to be able to handle a situation where you are 10 years deep and your husband is still cheating and he's still doing the same thing and he's still not listening and he's still not seeing your point of view?
it's a difficult one. I know the Bible gives a certificate for divorce. You know, if you cheat,
Yeah.
that is where it can happen. So my wife would even say, the day you cheat on me, you know, I'm giving you
pre-warned.
I'm giving you that certificate. You understand?
Yeah.
But you see, it depends on. To an extent, you may have seen some signs or know this man even before you got married.
True.
Don't think, you know, people make mistakes who think I would change
A man.
this man when we get married.
Yeah.
If that is something you frown out a lot of women have seen their parents cheat or their dads cheat, and it's really scarred them for life. Women have seen their mom cheat, and it's actually scarred them for life. Some people would not tolerate it at all. You understand?
Yeah.
I'm not saying stay in it, because also for your own sake, you can actually get some sort of, you know, STDs or
Something.
or something.
Spiritual something.
You know, again, are we talking about a Christian marriage here? Or
Yeah,
are we
let's
just-
talk about a Christian marriage, because obviously I understand your
because
point that we
non-Christian
need.
marriage, I don't know.
Yeah,
how
that one.
I don't know how.
No,
it
let's
happens.
talk about a Christian marriage, because again, women are supposed to be patient. Women are supposed to be nurturing. Women are supposed to build their homes. Women are supposed to do X, Y, and Z. We understand that. But again, it comes back to the fact that men don't have a lot of these teachings. That's why they think it's okay to get away with what they get away with. So now, if you're being all these things and the man still carries on doing certain things, like what would your advice be? What would, if I come to you, Brother Ferdinand, I said, you know what, Brother Ferdinand, my husband, he's cheating on me senselessly, and I've done
that I've
everything.
been taught.
I've approached him nicely. He's not listening. Like, what would you?
I'll probably call the man and you know, find out why and kind of hear from him, because there is no excuse for it, especially if it's a Christian home. There is no excuse for it. You've got yourself in it. If you want to cheat, then it's best to just leave the marriage and carry on, you know, because you're
Doing
not
your
just
thing.
sinning against your wife, you're sinning
Yeah.
against God as
Yeah.
well. And
Yeah.
obviously we know there are a lot of spirits that come with that.
Yeah.
So, and that spirit gets transferred to you if you know, so it is not the right place. You know, I would tell you it's not the right place to be in, you know, but it depends on
Situations.
it depends on every situation is
Different.
It's different. You know, if this man is really, really sorry, it was a I'm choosing my words here because my wife will tell you there is no excuse. There
Like,
is-
how do you?
there is
How
no-
how are you
there
really
is no
sorry?
There is
Like,
no
how?
mistake. You know,
Did you
there's
not
no
realize
mistake.
what you
Is it a
gonna do?
mistake? It's a choice.
You know, it can happen. Things happen. If you find yourself, you can put yourself in a vulnerable situation, and it happens. I've
Is
had
it a
it.
mistake?
To put yourself in a vulnerable situation.
I understand, but never say never. Never say never. The reason why I'm saying it, even from God's own perspective, sometimes if you think it's of your own power, Yeah, if you think it's of your own power, sometimes you can be put in a situation just to let
I
you know
agree.
it is not of your own power.
So don't put yourself in. It's because you know it's not of your own power. Then don't put yourself in
Into that
certain
situation.
situations.
I know, but things happen.
Okay,
you
yeah.
never know. Things happen. I never say never. You know,
You never
but
know.
Things can happen, and also sometimes it depends on was it premeditated. You know,
It's always premeditated.
It's a difficult one, but really there should be no excuse for it, especially if it is in a Christian relationship, which is why you need to be sure, 100%, try your best to get married to the right person, okay? Don't think your husband, your fiancé at the time of fiancé is cheating before you guys got married, and you think, no, when he gets married now he will calm down. No.
What if they're right? But I always have this fear, right? That sometimes you can get married to the right person, right? And they just keep doing the wrong thing and mess it up, because there's always the human part. I think that human participation, even if something is ordained by God, right? There's still that human effort.
Of course.
This is why, again, it comes down to this. As women, again, your aunties will sit you down, your mothers will sit you down, the church people will sit you down and say, this is what you need to do to be a good wife. What I wanted to touch upon is, in terms of men, do we think maybe men are not as open to be taught as well about these things? Like, a lot of the times you find that women can have problems and they go see their pastors. Like, how often do men even have certain situations that say, you know what, let me go to my pastor for help? Is it maybe what you were saying earlier about men don't like to feel like someone else is commanding over them, and then they end up staying in certain situations longer and longer, finding excuses rather than just seeking for help?
I personally think in everything, it goes back to the base. It's like what Brother Ferdinand says, is like, we can't blame society, we can't blame men as grown adults. It's hard to change habits that people have been doing for years.
Yeah.
Certain subjects are just taboo subjects within the home. For girls, like we've said here, a mother will speak to her daughters, the mother and daughters will have those discussions from a very young age that already opens up that line of communication, that if there is something going wrong, even when I get married, I can always go to my mom. There's always been that line of communication, whereas there isn't that for men. And a lot of men, like what discussions that we had before we came on air about, there are men that feel like, I just gotta figure it out. I'm just gonna figure it out myself. And when you have the attitude that I'm just gonna figure it out myself, you also have the attitude of like, well, nobody can tell me anything.
That's true.
Nobody can really correct me because I figured it out myself. And I think that's what the issue is. We need to start opening a line of communication for young boys as well, to be able to come and ask questions. Like, ask questions about, how do I handle certain situations? Even in marriage, obviously we're talking about marriages, but even just in life, how do I handle this situation? I don't know. Let's not leave our boys to just go out there and figure it out, because that's when mistakes are made. There needs to be, like we said, role models. There are very few of them, but we need male role models to help these young boys out, because there's only so much that a mother can do. There's only so much that as wives we can do to teach our husbands if their fathers didn't do it for them. There's only so much. We need men to pass down that knowledge. Like,
yeah, it's true. But do you think men are not as open to learn as women are to learn from other women, their mothers, and so on? Okay, we understand that. For example, say if it's not in the home, let's say in the church, are men open to say, you know what? Let me go and be taught how to be a good husband, or let me go and be taught that the way that I've been doing certain things are wrong? Or are they just completely blanked out to it? Like, what's another man going to teach me about what to do in my own house?
To be honest, like you were saying before, there are actually a few men's breakfasts and stuff that they do to actually talk to men, but a lot of the time is business related. You know, it's business, it's business related. I think, to be honest, it is an area, it is a problem. I've thought about it myself, you know, having like an agency that would have mentors who can go out and actually talk to men or boys. I find a lot of boys come to me and talk to me because they can relate, and I'm open. You understand? I don't need to hide. You know, sometimes if I feel like you're saying something and I can relate and I'm not hiding it, I would open up and tell you more.
Right.
And because of the nature where man thinks, you know, I'm a man, I can speak to my mom about a lot of things and not tell, even me, despite how I am, my little boy will sometimes tell his mom something and say, no, but don't tell daddy. Because he gets more disappointed when I'm disappointed with him. You know, he looks at me, you know, and he wants to please me.
Yeah.
Do you understand? He doesn't want me to feel disappointed. So I think it's just that ego thing, it's just that pride thing that we also still need to understand that men can cry. You know, growing up, it feels like, come on, you're a man, don't cry. You know, even me, I found it difficult. I'm doing it now, but my son, when he plays football, maybe they hit him and he cries. He comes to me like wants to hug me. In a way, I'm like, come on, man. I'm like, come on, man, toughen up. You know, but I started teaching myself that there's nothing wrong with, you know, hugging him and saying, oh, it's okay that I'm, you know, and I'm beginning to do it now.
Right.
But if it was my little girl that comes, I'm like,
different.
Oh, baby. You know, I want to hold her and kiss her and love her. So I think it's this ego thing, this man thing, and then the boy grows up also feeling the same way.
Right.
You understand? So a lot of damage has been done to a lot of men that needs to be corrected in our generation. But again, it starts from home.
True.
You know, it starts from the home.
True.
But, yeah.
So at home, we would say that it's the duty of parents, or, you know, obviously some people don't have the privilege of having, you know, a dad at home, but it is the duty of the parent or some male figure to say, do you know what, let's sit these people down and teach them, like, this is how you treat a woman, this is right, this is wrong. Because one thing I also want to say is, I feel like sometimes men, the issue is that they kind of encourage each other in things that are wrong. I don't know if you will agree. Like, for example, as a woman, it's that guy code, and I think that's an issue, because it's like, we'll cover up for each other. We don't want this to be known. And it's easy for a guy to do something and come and tell his boys because there's this code. But as women, it's like, oh my God, no, you can't do that. You need to sort this out. Like, this is wrong. And I think that kind of adds to the problem, because that's everywhere, whether in church or out of church. It's just this guy code, and we don't understand it as women to that extent. It's like, okay, where does it stop? To what point does it stop? That when it's good, but if
it's done correctly,
if it's
for the
done
good
correctly,
things,
like if guys are like, you know what, if I tell this person something, they might be able to align me back into reason, then maybe they will stop. But if it's like, I'll tell him this and maybe they will encourage me, or they will just be like, you know, that's how us boys are like. It almost pushes them to carry on doing those things even more. Yet the burden again gets put on the women to sort out the relationship.
It's peer pressure. It depends on the kind of people you surround yourself with.
True.
You know, bad company would always corrupt good manner. So if you surround yourself around people who, when you go out and maybe do stuff with a girl, you come back and you boast about it. Yeah, that's my boy, you know. And then you don't want to come back and say something that wouldn't give you that sort of hype. You understand what I mean? So I think that's what it is, which we cannot change overnight. You know, so we need to start building that society where people can say, you know what, I'm different from this person and it's okay to be. You know, it's okay to be. I don't have to come and say, yes, you know, I've done this, I've done that, and then I need you to like hype me up and tell me yes, you know. So it is a problem. You know, talking about this actually has made me realize how big of a problem it is that guys are not actually being educated. But I think, to be honest with you, apart from just being a good husband or a good wife, it's about being a good person. You know, because if you are a good person, all these things will come in place. You would do it out of necessity. You would do it out of importance. You know, I have to do this thing because I see my wife is stressed out. And it's not even, like I said, I've learned a lot. It's not just even about just, you know, learning how to deal with your wife. Women can be complicated. When you have, you know, that period in a life when you know, your menstrual cycle, it's a totally different person. You're like,
it's not that bad.
It can be. It can be. But you need to understand that this is how this person is feeling. But also, if you turn the coin around, you can also say maybe the man's testosterone is making him feel a particular way.
Oh, come on.
So just the way you expect the man to deal with you when you're going through your menstrual cycle, why don't you think you should probably...
menstrual cycle is for 3 to 7 days.
Like,
you guys' one is 31 days in a month.
No.
Like, you guys' one is all the time. It's not the same.
I think
it is not the same.
A big problem is compromise. And obviously today we're not touching so much about women. I wanted us to touch about mainly men. It's just, I don't know, like you said, there's something that you said earlier, that when you met your wife, she was not a big fan of the kitchen. And it's like most men right there and then, that will be the end of that marriage. Like, did I marry you to not come and cook for me? But rather than to gain that understanding and to have a different approach, is how many men are actually willing to compromise certain things? Because again, they're brought up to be, you have to be a man. As a man, these things have to be in order. When they feel like it's almost hurting their masculinity, then it's like, automatically take a defense rather than compromising in the situation. It's like the woman must always be the one to compromise or understand because she is the helpmate. So
I think there was a recent movie I watched. I don't know how old the movie is. It's a Nigerian movie, and it was talking about men's ego. Okay, the wife lived in a different state, and the woman lived in a different state. She earned more money,
right?
Yeah, and expected the man to move to her state. But he was like, I'm the man. You gotta move to my state. I'm not coming. And she earns way, way, way more. It took, the mom tried to convince him to move because it's for the good of the family.
Yeah.
Friends, guy friends told him different. Come on, man, you're the man. How can you move, man? You, blah,
the
blah,
guy
blah.
friend.
You understand?
There's a problem.
You know, but it took somebody who he looked up to. The boss or the boss of the company where the wife works. It took that man, or it took him to hear from that man when he said, my wife is actually richer than me. The company that I'm working in is owned by my wife, but nobody knows that. Okay? So when he heard this man speak, someone who he looked up to, he thought, if this man can be like this and do it and have a good home, I can. So it still boils down to good examples, mentors, people you can look up to that can tell you different, that would probably bring your ego down. You understand? And tell you, listen, it's fine. It's a teamwork. You know? So, but it's not too late. I think we can start now. The church can do more as well. There could be more events for situations like this where young people can come and talk about it, and parents can do more.
Yeah, definitely. For me, I think this episode for me was to just raise that awareness, and I feel like the church plays a big part into it. The family plays a major role into this as well. It's not about the issues, but it's about how to move forward. And I think, as you said, now with your boys being young, you're starting to put that in them at a young age. As they get older, I think they remember those values. And I think trying to get people at a young age is very important. You said that earlier. When you're trying to change a full-grown adult, it becomes very, very difficult. Then you find that certain things are not working, not because they're not necessarily God ordained, but it's because, again, men have that mentality of, you change, it's your responsibility, and it's this, it's that. And as you said, when his boys will be like, no, you can't do that, it's like, men don't want to make themselves look stupid, so they carry on with this ego mentality, but yet it doesn't make that home, it doesn't make it work. It does. So in terms of, we're wrapping up, but we want to find out what there's other men out there that do want to change, that do want to grow, and might not necessarily have positive role models around them, right? What do we tell those boys? That where do they go? Because if they don't have it, they can end up falling into the same bad habits, not because it's their fault, but because they're looking around them, they don't have role models, they don't have people to look up to. Some of them might be in single parent homes, some of them might have parents that are absent. So for those young men, like, I'll start with you, Naomi, like, what do they do? And you can't just be telling people, just go pray. Like,
no, I think it's sad, you know, from what we've said throughout the whole episode, is that it's sad that there's no role models. But I think it just takes the willingness from that guy. It takes the willingness for yourself. You might not have good role models, but you do have bad role models that you know what they're doing is bad. Start by doing the opposite to what they're doing. Start by doing something different, react different to the way that they react. Treat the people, the women in your life different to the way that these men treat the women in their life. I think that's the starting point. And hopefully, as you go through life, you're gonna have to come across at least one good man that you can hopefully be able to go to and speak to and be able to get advice from them. I think the good starting point is look at those that you have, decide why what they are doing is bad, why you think what they are doing is bad, and how do you begin to mold that and change that for something that works better for yourself?
That's true, Brother Ferdinand.
It still boils down to a good person for me. It still boils down to that. Like I said, the things that I do today, I did not see growing up. But I chose to do it. Again, love, like I said before, just for the sake that I love this woman. I want to do something to make her happy. And if these things would make her happy, then I have to do it. But where can these people go? Role models, you know, well, not just in churches, when you go out. They must have this hunger to want to change or thinking that there is something different. You know, this can be it. There has to be something better. And then if they seek for it, they will find it. You know, it's just people like us making it available. You know, this show is a good one, for example, is online there. You can put something out there and say, you know, contact so person if you want to talk about this and that, because some of these guys need that direction.
It's true.
And unfortunately, some people are just bad.
It's the sad truth, you know. And as women, we don't want to accept that. We don't.
Some men are just bad. You know, it's just in them. And there's nothing you can do that would change it. That's why a lot of people in jail today. There's nothing. You see someone who just, you know, kills another man, cold-blooded, heart sealed. You know, they don't care about it. Some people are just bad. You know, so it's actually just being good, being a good person can then help you to an extent to actually, you know, seek that help or change.
Because besides us talking about marriage, what I think is important, even with boys, is obviously boys have a harder time opening up. We're talking about boys and men than women because we're a bit more emotional. You find that a lot of boys and young men, they do suffer with a lot of things, whether in church or out of church, and they just don't know how to open up, or I don't know what it is. Maybe you can help us on that.
It starts with affection from when they're young.
Wow.
I just gave you an instance of my son. Even though I'm that man who is trying to break out of that, you know, whole circle, I sometimes struggle to give my son a proper hug. I don't remember my dad hugging me. So, you know, like hugging me and showing me. So I'm growing up thinking, you gotta be tough, man. Come on, you know. And
boys don't cry. You
know, boys don't cry and stuff. But sometimes you see a young boy, 5 years old, 7-year-old, coming to hug their dad, and they're kind of, come on, man. You know, because it's not something they're used to. So they don't have this affection from a very young age, and they grow up being shut down all the time, or being told, toughen up, grow up, and then they just put that block, you know, like, I can't talk to anybody. They lack the affection, but the women get a lot of the affection. Most of the women, they get a lot of the affection. Like I said to you, my daughter will come and be, what's the matter, darling? Or my son gets hurt, I'm like already angry. How did you do that?
No, it's true.
It's different.
Do you know what? You don't think about things like this because it's so in us that, like, we allow young girls to be able to explore their emotions more than we do the young men, boys. Because little boys will come to you straight away. It's like, okay, I will listen to you, but you need to stop crying first. Like, toughen up. Address it like a man. He's a child.
And you know what? The other thing I was gonna say is as well. It's like, when women are brought up that way, right? For example, I see the way my dad is with us girls compared to the way he's with boys, right? Automatically, that creates an expectation for me of how my husband should treat me. But then the boys are taught to toughen up. So then when I'm older, I'm not getting that affection from my husband, my partner, that I used to be able to get when I was a child from my dad. Then it creates that fiction of like, the boys don't know how to give that affection to their wives. And I'm like, I need it because this is how I grew up, and it all just blows up in our faces.
That's what it is.
But I think that's the thing there with, that's what I said about the taboo subject. I think fathers need to, you know, moms. When a little boy comes to you and he's crying, you still give them that affection. You still kind of like, oh, my baby. But I think it needs to come from the dads.
True.
because if it's coming from the mom, they are used to that. Again, when they become adult, they're used to it coming from the girls. And but when they're crying to mom, but they're scared to go cry to dad because dad will just shut them down, they grow up to become men that just shut their emotions away and they don't know how to deal with it. They need to see men that are emotionally available and emotionally intelligent from a very young age.
But it's also dangerous to not too dangerous. They need to have some sort of a middle, a boundary or an immigrant. Nobody wants to see an emotional wrecked man. You understand? Who cannot control their emotions, or if you find yourself in a situation where you got to just stand up and make decision as the father or the head of the home, you don't, because you've been programmed not to. You understand? You've been programmed not to. So, that's why you need a father and a mother, because what that does is you have both extremes coming together, bringing a balance. You understand? That's why you need both to,
it's so true, because as we're talking, I'm just sort of, it's starting to, it's starting to click together, because we don't realize the psychological effect of our actions. It actually stems from a deeper place, and we just think this is just like this. And I think that's the problem with us women as well, when we just expect that automatic change from a man. Like, why are you not changing? But we don't understand that something that's been programmed a particular way, and I agree with what Brother Ferdinand said about time, that you have to also be patient to say, do you know what? If I believe this is the good thing from me coming from God, I need to be patient to some extent. But I say that, but at the same time, I do think men also have to play their part. And I don't know. My mind has been blown away. My mind has actually been blown away today. My mind has been blown away. But I think just in terms of rounding up, right? Just each of you, what advice would we give to the church, families, and also to young men out there about ways in which they can better themselves, that those that are in marriage or those that are aspiring to marriage or just to relationships in general, that they can be able to say, do you know what, this is something that I can learn and improve from. I think the most important thing is about moving forward rather than just, I know women, we say this men are trash thing, which it kind of falls back in our, it really falls back in our faces, because you still have to get married someday. So it's about, what do we say? Not just where they go, like what kind of last advice would you give for people that are watching this, that actually want to change and that are actually open to the idea and thinking, do you know what? Some of the things that they're saying are true. What do we say to them? What's the role of the church, family, society, and just ourselves?
I think, like Brother Ferdinand said, it starts at home. There's a fundamental role that we need to start doing in the house. And sadly, society at the moment, like we've discussed, that most homes are single parent homes. Most homes are just the mother by themselves. But as mothers as well, I can speak on that, is that we need to start finding role models good role models that we can bring around our child. Not necessarily partners, it can be somebody in the church, like a leader in the church, somebody that we can bring around our child to begin to teach them to be men. Because I believe women were super women. We can do a lot, but we cannot teach a boy to be a man, because that we just don't know. We can teach them to be close to it, maybe 80%, 90%, but not to be a man, a full-grown man, because we just don't know how to do it. I think women need to start having those honest conversations within ourselves. We start looking at our homes and start trying to rebuild the home. We need to start trying to rebuild the home. And I think with the church, like we've said and we've joked about, the conferences for boys. Like, okay, if we're not going to start with conferences, let's start kind of focus groups that focuses on how are the young boys in the church growing? What are their morals? What are their values? Is there what can we add to them? The church needs to start taking that seriously as well. The church needs to honestly start understanding the role that they play in that and start to actually do it. I get it, we have to build good wives, but we have to build good husbands as well. Because the good wives can't go into marriages with bad husbands. The marriages are not going to work. No matter how good of a wife you are, if your husband is not ready to be a husband, it's not going to work. So I think that's where I stand.
I think men, just learn to love your boys. Fathers, learn to love your boys. Give them a hug. Let them know they can cry. It's okay to cry. but at the same time they fall and they stand up again and walk. You know, it's just to show them affection. And for those who feel like they lack that, you know, look out for help. Go to the church, for example, and churches should do more. Like we we're just saying, I think churches should do more in not just events, but in having groups where people can actually come and open up and talk. You know, I was doing that at my church when we have relationship seminars. We have the guys, you know, the boys come and talk about things and stuff. But we need to understand the effects of the society on people. Yeah. You know, I've always used as an example. You know, I've got an accent. I'm a Nigerian. My kids, even though I raised them, they've got a British accent because they pick up a lot from outside. True. You know, they won't sound like you, they'll sound like outside. And they come home, my kids are doing it already. Make sure you do this. I'm like, who do you hear talk like that? You understand? So there's a lot of outside influence coming in the home, which unfortunately we cannot stop. It is an agenda out there, we just cannot stop it. So what the parents need to do is do more. Yeah. And those who, you know, who are raising their kids by themselves, like she said, Naomi said, you know, try and look for real good role models that your kids can spend more time with. You know, that is really lacking, you know, and the guys should know that it is okay to actually treat your wife or your girlfriend or, you know, whoever right, you know, so turn your negative experiences into positive.
True. Okay, great. And I think that pretty much wraps up our topic today. I believe this one was one that was very informative. I think even for myself as well, I'm sure all of us had something to learn. And for me, it's just important to have a platform where we can talk about these types of things that can take us back, to give us something to think about. And I think this one is definitely one that is reflective, that it's not too late. There's still something that can be done. And one thing that we all took from there is just about willingness. If you're willing to change and you're willing to seek help, you can find that help and you can be a good person. So we're about to wrap up. But before we wrap up, what I normally do is just put a bit of a teaser question at the end, okay? Just to see how we respond to it. Okay, so one of the topics that I want us to explore in the future is whether signing a DNR, which is a do not resuscitate. Can a Christian sign that, do you think?
Can a Christian sign it?
Yeah.
Why not? I just want to know.
You know, I'm kind of, do you know, I get what he's saying. I'm
Why
kind
not?
of in the middle.
That's kind of suicide, no?
It's not. If I do not resuscitate is once I've died, don't bring me back to life. That's what it is.
It's you breaking the chance of the possibility to...
No, but that's it for me. I mean, I personally wouldn't sign it, but I'm saying from a standpoint of, I wouldn't sign it because I want to live as much as I can possibly live. Like, I want to live. But if I don't see the issue with it, because if I've already died, because the do not resuscitate only comes into place once you've taken your last breath and your heart has stopped. That's when it comes into place. Once that's done, you're dead. Just, who is man to bring you back to life? So,
it is if you have a revelation of heaven and you want to go to heaven, I don't think
honestly,
I don't think you want to live in this world. If you actually have a true revelation, a lot of us Christians don't have a true revelation of heaven. It's like telling a child who is in Iraq where they're bombing stuff, you know, where, you know, bomb and everything is going on, and then they were just about to come to England, and then you say no, bring him back to Iraq. That child will come back and say, what were you thinking? I was already going to England. I think if we have a revelation of heaven, it will change our perspective about death. I think I wouldn't sign that.
Okay. Okay, guys, thank you very much for joining us this week for another episode of Can We Talk About It? We had our guests, Brother Ferdinand and Sister Naomi. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure. See you again next time for another episode of Can We Talk About It? I'm your host, Noella Kazadi. Take care. Till next time. Bye-bye.
Can we talk about it? We'll be too busy fighting over nothing. Can we talk? about it? We be too busy fighting over nothing. Can we talk? Can we discuss? Yeah. Can we talk? Can we discuss? Yeah. Can we talk? Can we discuss? Yeah. Can we talk about it?